Seeing as how we're here and you're the only one who's here, have you tried your EBS web service thingy yet?
I've been kind of running from meeting to meeting this morning so far, but I do have it here to do it. Yes, I'm going to be doing that for sure this morning. I did download it last week as far as, it's like trying the stuff that we'd already done, but I think I've got to download the latest version. Why don't I do that right now, actually?
No, I mean the supplier portal.
Oh. Yeah, no, we haven't tried that yet, but I'm going to work with Tina this morning to try, or actually I was going to try and work with Tina this morning to try and get that sort tested.
Okay.
How big of a change is that going to be for the consumers?
Shouldn't be massive.
It was already web. Right, it was already web API, right? Yeah, I forgot that. Sorry, I was thinking it was WCF. Right.
Yeah, we didn't change anything but the URLs.
Right. Okay.
Which is really cool. And it was awesome, wasn't it? Me and Tina sitting here watching Jeff work. It was great doing that for a day.
Did you learn something, though?
I actually learned a couple of things. It was, it was really, I say it in jest, but it's like, it was actually kind of cool watching the different ways of doing things. But yeah, I did learn a few things.
Right. Yeah, that's still one area that we need to document more and example more and demo more and stuff like that, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at what we were doing. I mean, it's like there's an awful lot of value in there. It's like in the Harmony core and being able to kind of have one place that we can host stuff and be able to, it's like make that, add more servers to that, put it behind an F5, it's like so we can load balance it and all that stuff. I think there's a lot of value there.
Have you got other use cases building up or?
Yeah. So right now we have the order stuff that we've been working on. They're already talking about wanting to do OData for at least the inventory piece that we already have in production. So they want to go back and modify that. So they're doing an OData call instead. We have 3 active projects for just the order piece. So there's 4 other applications that are looking at consuming that data. So we'll have EDI, we'll have IUNFI, we'll have the customer portal, and we'll have what's called Alfred, which is a sales tool that we have. And it is actually based on the Batman Butler thing. Of course. So all 3 of those are looking at consuming order data as it changes, as it comes through, and actually be able to show that to customers, or it's like bring up an open order list on the customer portal. IUNFI would have that as a sales tool, and we would have that within EDI. They're looking at using it for order confirmations. And also order exceptions. So if a customer orders a product and there's some reason why they can't have it, like it's out of stock or it's not on their APL or something like that, we'll be able to tell them immediately, this is why you can't have this product, and we'll be able to do that kind of real time. Or if they have a new product added to the order, we'll be able to feed that back into EDI before it's invoiced, which we don't do today.
Mm-hmm. Right. Sounds very cool.
That's the part we're talking about later today, isn't it? With Chris. I think that's today on my calendar. We have a meeting with you later today, specifically about this, don't we?
Do we?
Just with Rachel and Don added into it.
Like that. Hey, listen, I have a question for you. Are you still using? I haven't looked at your stuff recently. Jeff's been dealing with it. Are you still using actual names? And if so, is there any interest in going to human readable names or, well, normal human readable names. I get that you're a human and you can read them just fine. Is there any interest in making them English readable, or is it too late to change them at this point?
So I was actually talking to somebody about that the other day. So yes, there is interest in doing that. There is interest actually in what I think we would like to do is we do have a data mart, data warehouse, whatever you want to call it, depends who you talk to. But that has like more English-like human readable names as the same fields that we have in UBS. And what we would like to do, I think, is take those names and map them into the API that we have. So because the people who are consuming the data are more used to working with that. So if they're able to use the same fields in the OData API, I think that would help them understand it better.
Right.
Do we need to do like a V1, V2 on this and keep the old names in place, or like are there consumers right now that this matters to?
I think it's going to be a V2, but I think it would make sense for them to migrate to the V2 probably sooner rather than later. So I think there's an immediate need, which I think we can keep with the V1 for, but then we can do a V2 so that I think that would make it an easier transition.
Right, and would you want to? So that's field names. Would you also want to select, or do you also have defined names at the structure level as well? So your ORDHs becomes order headers or orders or whatever?
Again, I think that would make sense. Yeah, I think that would be good.
Do those names already exist in that other environment also, or is it just fields over there?
They do. So we tend to make, it's like, so over there, for example, our order header file is called TBL order. TBL orders, I think. And the lines is TBL lines. So they're more English-like, and I think kind of
still not quite all the way, are they?
Right.
Yeah. No, not really.
Well, but the convention could be just drop the TBL, and then you might be where you want to be ultimately.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I was actually just thinking the same thing. Yeah, that would make perfect sense.
So next question is, do those alternate names for fields already happen to exist in the repository, or would that be a task that someone would have to do?
Wouldn't that be lovely if they did? But no, we never. But no, we never went down that road. So yeah, it would. My thought would be that it would probably be a task that we would ask maybe our data warehousey group to kind of look at doing. Right. But even they may not be able to do it kind of like right off the bat. They may not be aware of what each field maps to.
That's the approach. We're doing this with another sizable customer right now, and they're having one of their BAs basically define what the alternate name should be rather than programmers just randomly picking something.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, the advantage that they've got, most of the field names have a kind of like long field name in the SQL tables that says what the source of the field was. I don't think they've kept that up recently, but I think a lot of the older ones have that. So that would have a direct relationship between what the UBS field name is and the field name in SQL. Right.
Okay. Well, we can talk about that more when I believe we're coming to see you soon, right?
Yeah.
So we can maybe sketch that out.
The 11th and 12th, yeah.
But no, I think that's a good kind of future development for us to be able to look at and kind of have some reasonable names for people to work with.
Seems like we should get in there sooner rather than later and get it done, because the longer it stays the way it is, the harder it's going to be to ever change it.
It's just V1, V2. Exactly. We just have to leave the old one around.
The more time goes by, the more clients will have to change. So,
I mean, it might even be worth looking at doing the field names. I mean, so I think you'd said at one point the logic existed in the templates that if there was an alternate name, you could set a flag that says use the alternate names or the ODBC names, right, from the repository.
It's just code gen. If the alternate name, there's a switch you can throw to say use alternate names, and if a field has an alternate name, it uses it, and if not, it continues to use the original name.
So it may be worth actually having somebody look at that like real quick and kind of, like start looking at putting in the names that we know exist kind of thing, so that we can...
If you can get them into the repository, we can start to work on exposing that other API, the other version.
Yeah.
I think maybe one of the things I'd like to kind of look at as well is, so right now, because of the way that, it's like you kind of have to have the structures loaded in the right order in the repository. I kind of have two repositories, which is a little irritating. I have the one for the OData stuff, and I have the one for UBS. Now, the one for UBS, I've got set up in such a way that, yes, I can load the stuff real easily when I do a system build. What I would like to kind of get to is the one repository, or the one set of structures that I can modify and have in both places. So I'm not maintaining two different, because that's going to get out of sync real quick. In fact, I'm sure it already has. And that's going to be a problem. So being able to have the multiple files thing in, I think in the Visual Studio project for OData, and be able to have the files, multiple files on the VMS side, and a way to load them up. I think I kind of figured out a way to do it on the VMS side, but it's a little bit awkward.
Roseanne's working on that right now, and it's an RPS util change, not a Visual Studio change. So once it's done, it'll work everywhere.
Oh, okay, great. So in that case, I mean, hopefully it would work with, because one of the problems I was hitting was, it's like I need to have the files loaded before I load the structures, and I need to have it's like the key for structure one needs to exist for blah, it's like, and the way I was dealing with it right now, basically I was doing a merge of the ones that, it's like had the additional stuff associated with them, the relationships and that, into a single file, and then just loading them all up at once. But again, that's going to be challenging to maintain, and it means everyone has to know how to do it. And
it gets real messy real fast.
Yeah.
I know she like a month and a half ago had it really close to being done. So I wonder if we can...
Sounded in the ideas review meeting yesterday like there was some issue and it was bigger than we thought. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds fun. So, strictly speaking, it is possible to order multiple files. If you know the order inside Visual Studio, you can explicitly declare that order in a repository project on a per file basis. Yeah.
Yeah, but that wouldn't work on VMS, right?
No, it would not help you on VMS.
Yeah, and what I'm really looking at doing is maintaining a single repository.
Yeah.
Or at least a single repository schema, let's say that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, well, like I say, it's been worked on. It's been worked on right now. How long it's going to take, I don't know. I think, like I just mentioned to Jeff, I think we've discovered that the scope of the project is a little bit bigger than we initially thought, but it is being worked on. So hopefully before too much longer.
Okay. Well, I think my go forward right now is keep adding files to what we've got. Take a look at doing the longer name, or the different name, the alternate names. I want to say it that way. And it's like see if I can get the testing at least started today on the new portal stuff that Jeff did the other day. So yeah, that's kind of at least the short term.
So have you got any other big wants right now, Chris, or is it now that we've got started to look at putting data in there as well, data-centric stuff in there as well? Are you good for the time being, or is there anything are you waiting for anything?
No, actually, not waiting for anything. I think we've got some more testing to do with the digital team. But basically, I mean, we're in a state where we're in production. We're pulling the data that we need to. It looks really good. It's performing amazingly. It's really fast, which is nice. That is awesome. Yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape right now. I mean, I'd like at some point to start looking at maybe doing, it's like patch documents and stuff like that. But that should work already, right?
Conceptually, those should work, yes. So we just need to test them with your stuff and make sure that concept and reality are in the same place.
I mean, there are, in our sample environment, there are patch operations are generated, and patch operations are generated into the Postman tests and do work. So I have demoed, every time I demo doing a patch, and it will. I mean, all I'm doing is taking a customer and changing their zip code or something like that, but it works.
Yep. Okay. Oh, that was what I meant to ask. So on and I guess it's in V11, and I should try it, and I haven't yet. Using a decimal against a key. No, what's the other way around, isn't it? An integer value in a record as a foreign key to a decimal key thing. Select shift thing. That was in V11, right?
That is a V11 thing, yes. I know it's committed and it's done and it's tested. I don't know if we've shipped V11 for VMS, which is what you would need.
That's a select change.
Yeah, it's a XF server side of select change.
Yeah. So I actually could try that if I put version 11 on our DevBox CTD UBS 103. Because I have XF server running on there against a nightly copy of our entire database from VMS. So I could try that on there potentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I will download the most recent 11 and I'll update that on that box and kind of see what that looks like.
Okay. Deborah, are you out there? Can you hear us? Can we hear you?
Hello?
Oh, Debbie. Hey.
Hi, Debbie.
Well, thanks for joining us. I'm not sure how much of what we were talking about you got to see. Do you have any questions that we can help you with about Harmony Core?
No, not yet. Looks like an interesting solution to some problems.
Right. Are you thinking of investigating using it?
Thinking about it for the fact that we have a lot of outside EDI processes feeding data into our system. And if we could give them an API where they wouldn't violate the database underneath, it would be nice.
Okay. So how much do you already know about what Harmony Core is?
Not much at all.
Not much. You were not at the conference, right? Recently, in October.
I was not. No.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm not trying to defer this out of this meeting, but the first, what you want me to do a demo?
Why not?
Seriously?
Yeah.
I guess we've got 25 minutes. Do you want to see a demo?
Sure. Yeah. Please.
All right. In a nutshell, I'll give you the 20,000-foot view, Deb. And if you really want to drill into more detail, let's talk to Rachel, and we'll set up a specific hour between you, me, and Rachel, and Jeff if he wants to join us, and we'll do something in a little bit more detail. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to show you a couple things. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go, let's use this one. Oh, didn't want to do that. Let's use this one. What we're looking at here is the homepage of our sample site. So Harmony Core is basically a framework that we've designed to help you build RESTful web services. So you guys know what web services are, right? You've been doing the WCF thing for years now. So RESTful web services are just a different way of implementing the same kind of functionality that, to be quite honest, is quicker, easier, simpler, faster. It's just better in every way. So essentially what it is a set of libraries and a set of code gen templates, which again is similar to the way you work with with WCF already, you're already generating WCF services off your repository. So this does exactly the same thing. The approach is just the same. But instead of generating WCF services, we're generating Web API and OData controllers and other things behind the scenes. You can come at this from two different angles. One is purely from data-centric approach, code-generating stuff directly off your repository, just like you do today. So you can get an awful lot of functionality straight out of the box. You can also add custom extensions to do specific pieces of functionality for, not things that are not simply creating, reading, updating, or deleting, but, firing off some business process or whatever it is. This demonstration is purely the out-of-the-box code-generated stuff that you get for free once you have a repository in place, which the good news is you already do, because we're already generating all your WCF services. There's one area that you probably don't have, which is this environment, over and above what your WCF stuff does, is able to leverage relations between structures. And I'll show you how that works in a moment. So that's probably the one thing that you may not have in your repository. You do ODBC as well, though, right?
I do, yes.
So do you have relations defined throughout your repository already?
We do.
Okay, all right. You should be in great shape then. Essentially, what these services give you when you've code generated them is every OData service has a base address. The base address in our default environment is our URL and followed by the keyword OData. And when you go to that base address, it serves up a list of all the entities it knows about. So these are all of our structures that we've exposed. In our sample environment, there are 5. There's vendors, order items, orders, items, and customers. And what it's telling us is, I know at the base address, OData, if you go to /customers, this part of the URL, you will get an entity set, a collection of customers, right? So if we do that, we go customers, and we type it in, and we get a collection of all customers. Now, in our sample data set, we only have a small amount of data. You might be thinking, well, do I really want to expose all customers when there's 15,000 of them? Yeah, you probably do, because of the way OData works. I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute's time. Just like with most other services, you can get a collection of something, or you can say, well, I'd like to get a specific customer. So we can also go at a specific endpoint. No, it's just not. It's just dead.
Did it take your enter? Oh.
The mouse is dead right now. Yeah. What is going on?
Sometimes, you just want a cord.
Always. I always want a cord.
Me too.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what... Now we've got computer problems, Debbie.
I think that's the whole
Okay. Did that?
Yeah, that worked.
That worked,
that's
okay.
One...
So basically, yeah, it's just coincidence that we can... Oh, there we go. You can see we can go... So we can either go after all customers as so, or we can go after a specific customer by primary key, like so. Okay, we could also do, of course, all of the same kind of things if we were to swap this out and say vendors. Okay, we can go after all of our vendors, or we can go after a specific vendor. Okay, and that's true with every entity that we expose. If we enable these capabilities, you can pick whether you want to expose all, whether you want to expose one. You can also pick, do you want to expose things by alternate key? So, for example, the customer file has an alternate key on state. So if we say customers state equals Washington, then we get all customers in the state of Washington. Okay, this is OData querying. The way to think about OData querying is think of SQL for web services, and that's basically what it is. You can do stuff in these URLs that let you select, filter, order, and constrain, and select individual properties and so on, just like you can with SQL. Select field, column, from, where, order by. You can do all of those same things in these URLs. So, for example, if I go back to our collection of customers and we say, and we want to do a query and we'd like to $select, you can see I've done some of these things before. So let's say we want customer number, name, and credit limit. Then on the URL, we've constrained, we only want to get this piece of information back. So that's like saying select column, column, column in a SQL statement. We can also do things like, we can say we want to continue this query and I want to filter by credit limit greater than 7,000. So now we've only got a small number of results back and the credit limit is greater than 7,000 and we've constrained the properties that are coming back. We can also do things like, we can say continue the query, order by equal credit limit descending on the URL. So now that didn't work. What did I do wrong here last time?
Dollar order by.
Oh, right, I did the same thing again.
That part's fine.
Yeah, I know. I'm working there. It's just a bit sluggish. There we go. So now we've got an order by, and you can see 10,000, 9,500, 9,000. So you can basically use these URLs, these OData queries, just like SQL to a database. Very, very powerful. But that's not the really cool stuff. The really cool, and bear in mind, I'm hitting one endpoint on the web service here. I'm not hitting, now I could hit, this is one endpoint, all customers, and I can hit the individual customer, or I can hit the customers by state and then do the same thing, or customers in a zip code. Wherever I've got alternate keys, I can drill in from that point, if we turn those options on. The really cool stuff is what you can do with relations. So if we go back all the way to customers, in fact, let's go to a single customer just to keep the size of the data down a little bit. So we'll go to customer number 1, and in addition to the SQL stuff, we can also do joins, or the SQL querying and filtering stuff, we can also do joins. So if we say the query is, there's one that says expand equals rel orders. So we expose rel underscore is our secret prefix name for this is a relation to the order structure. And you can see that here's the customer, and then here's an array of their orders. So there's their first order, their second order, and so on. And we can do querying, ordering, sorting, filtering, and all of that stuff you just saw at each level. So you can constrain the fields here. You can order them by customer reference number, filter on only orders placed by Karen Graham, all of that kind of stuff. So you've really got the full power of what you can do in SQL in the database in this URL OData query. And you can take that that concept a long way. I'm aware we're getting short on time for the meeting, so let's just drill all the way back to our our home page here. Ooh, God, this is so sluggish. Here's another example.
Is it only for selecting data?
No,
or for updating data?
No, I'm going to come on to that, and that's why I'm trying to get through this bit real quick. So I'm going to show you an update as well. So here's an example of that drill down. So this one, we've got data from the customer file. This is a customer order. This is the items for the order. This is coming from the inventory file. And this is the vendor that provided the item. So essentially, we just read 5 ISAM files doing 4 joins. Under the hood, this is all getting turned into SQL synergy select statements. Okay, so it's extremely powerful. And this is all, remember, everything you're seeing here is, no code was written to do this. It's all from the code-generated templates. Okay? But no, it's not read-only. So if we, now obviously, reading information, you do an HTTP GET, which you can do in a browser. If you want to create, update, delete, then we use HTTP post, patch, put, delete operations, which you can't easily simulate in a browser without writing some HTML and JavaScript and so on. So for that, I'm going to use Postman, which you're probably familiar with. Postman is just a little utility that lets you issue HTTP requests. So if we go off here to the Harmony Core Sample API and we look at customer tests, for example, read. Okay, so here's an example of creating a customer. So now we're doing a put request. we are basically specifying the URL, the customer we want to create. We do have a mechanism on the back end to auto-generate customer numbers and things like that, but it's not implemented in this demo. So here we are posting, here's the data we're going to post into the server as part of the create. So this is the customer we're about to create, 999. And if we, now which server are we talking to? We need to make sure we're talking to the right machine. Hopefully if we do a send, did it come back? There's our response, 201 created. So it just created that customer. If I go off back to my browser, now I should have proved that the customer wasn't there first, but I'll prove that we delete it in a moment. We should be able to go query that customer, and there's the customer we just created. Okay, trust me, there's no smoke and mirrors here. That did actually happen. So there's a create. We can do an update in exactly the same way. So put will either create if it doesn't exist, or will update if it does exist. So if I change the address to maybe 5555 San Pablo Dam Road and do a send, we get a response that says 204 no content. So that's a successful response with no content coming back. And if I go back to my browser and do a refresh, you can see the address changed. Okay. Equally, we can do a patch. So you can do. So this is examples of how your customers could post transactions into you. Essentially, you can also do patch. A patch is a partial update. So with a patch, you, instead of sending an entire object, you send in instructions to say replace the value of this property with this value. And you can see we're already preset up to do it on customer 9999, the one we just created. So if we do a send, again, the response code we got was 204 no content. That's a success. If we go back and refresh our browser, the name is now Dan's company. And of course, if we allow it, then we can also go and do a delete. So this is just issuing an HTTP delete to that URL. And we do a send. And again, if we flip over and do a refresh, then we get a 404 not found. So no, out of the box, you get full create, read with all the query, update and delete, and patch. We do have support for implementing authorization and authentication through standard mechanisms. So we can hook it into Active Directory, for example, through ADFS, or the technology we actually use is the Microsoft, what's it called? Identity framework. So it has any number of ways of configuring back-end authorization and authentication databases, including things like Facebook login and Google login and Microsoft login and all of those kind of things, if that's what you want to do, which may be appropriate if you're offering stuff out to the public. So in a nutshell, that's what Harmony Core does. And remember, all of that was entirely code generated. Above that, you can start adding custom stuff. We have extensibility points up the yin yang to let you add whatever you need to, and bolt in existing code and stuff like that. So that's the 10,000 foot view of what it is. What I would suggest is, we're getting towards the end of this meeting. I would suggest if you want more information, talk to Rachel, and let's set up another meeting and take it from there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. We're done?
I think so.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Debbie. Thank you, Chris, from earlier. He's gone, but he can't hear us, but thanks anyway. Okay. Talk to you all next time.